Hello, hi everyone. My name is Chris Wee, HUI. I'm making this video. It's a theory crafting video, and some of the topics we're going to explore is FI DOMs, which includes ISFP and INFP, and maybe we'll get to the differences between analyzers and synthesizers. So, something that's kind of important, like why making these videos, is right now I'm in Quanzhou, Fujian province, and I'm actually traveling China. Very soon I will not be here. I'll soon go to Hainan Island to settle some kind of legal property disputes, and it's really tricky. I'm a person who could learn a lot of things, and I'm very serious when I'm learning a topic, and I focus really heavily on a topic. Like, so for example, for like the last 9 months, at least the last 9 months, I've been focused very seriously on understanding MBTI and socionics. So I actually know a lot about the 16 types, but I have this really big problem. When I want to learn something, I get really focused on it, and I kind of like ignore a lot of other things. And my brain is full of wisdom and understanding about this stuff, but if I do something else, like I'm going to go travel, I'm going to actually forget a lot of the things I learned. So I'm going to be making these videos as a way of practicing what I know, reviewing what I know, but also uh, basically sharing what I've learned. Actually, not just with other people, but also with my future self. Because it's really frustrating to learn a lot about this topic and then you forget about that topic, and it feels bad. In the past, I thought maybe I'll make these like perfect videos and edit them, but I just don't have the time. I really am struggling all the time. So I decided, I'm going to maximize learning, and I've been running a podcast, so I have actually a lot of recorded podcasts that are not uploaded. I'm looking to upload them soon, but this week I did 3 podcasts with 3 ISFPs. Like last week, I had a podcast with my friend Wensi. That was about 4 hours. From Guangzhou province. ISFP Yana from Shantou. That was like 6 hours. And then ISFP Annie or Wang Wei. That was about 4 hours. So I did like more than 10 hours of podcasts with ISFPs. And I guess this is part of, I'm just trying to share with you guys my process, is I really, really value theoretical knowledge, but I also value actually getting into the field research and also having discussions. So I don't know how much detail and depth I can get in today because the time is limited, but I have so many people to thank, like Citadel has been very helpful, Love Who channel. So I'm just going to say that what I'm sharing is my own understanding based off of learning the theoretical knowledge, running some podcasts, running a lot of field research, and also having discussions with other people. So I'm going to kind of talk about these 2 types at least, and maybe also ESFP, ENFP, and C. The point of what I'm trying to share right now is, and also theorycraft. By theorycraft, not just sharing, but also trying to build on what I already know, is to try to understand some of the patterns we're seeing in these types. So FI, SE, NI, TE, which gives us FE, SI, NE, TI. INFP, FI, NE, SI, TE, FE, NI, SE, TI. So ESFP, SE, FI, TE, NI. It just, and I'm happy to hear other people's opinions. Like, I'm not really expecting my channel to become quite big in the short term, but I want to use this channel as a way to connect with people on a real and genuine level. So people are welcome to comment, and I will try to get and respond to them. Especially when there aren't that many comments, it's good because I could actually look into them. SIFETI. I think there's 6 types I want to go through, actually. NE, FI, TE, SI, and I. FE, TI, SE. I don't know. I want to duplicate this. Duplicate. And who are the types that have FI in their third function? That would be the people who have TE in their second function. Oh, yes, I'm basically talking about FI users today. I remembered. So that's going to, who has it in the third function? So if they're a TE user, that'd be INTJ. That'd be INTJ would be one of them. It's the FI in the third function. And who has it? Who is a TE? The ISTJ. My mother. I'll probably getting more into I'm going to travel with my mom very soon, so I'm going to look more into ISTJs, but I've just looked into ISFPs, ESFPs, ENFPs, ISTPs. I want to record that before I have to go on ISTJ storm. And I watched a lot of videos about INTJs. I've actually conducted 2 podcasts with INTJs, so I did notice some things that I thought might be worth sharing. So that made SI, SITE, NE, NI, SE. So I'm also, my choice to actually write this out rather than go get pronounced is because I really want to, I actually use socionics and MBTI BB like in real time. So I actually use this kind of stuff like when I'm socializing with people. I've actually memorized this, and so I want to build those neuron connectivity. I want to be able to increase the speed in which I can analyze situations in real time and actually deal with multiple people. I found it very interesting, and that's actually what my channel is about. I don't want to share things that I don't think are valuable. I want to share things that I have actually, to some degree, proven to myself, or to some level that I am comfortable, can say it's something that I think is quite valuable. And then our last is like ENTJ, who has the FIs and ESTJs, I believe. I believe it's ESTJs because they're the TE DOMs have the FI inferiors. NI, SE. And take it for what you will. A lot of the knowledge that I've learned about what I'm about to share was taken at a painful cost. So I'm trying to share it to reduce the pain that other people have to feel to some degree. And by painful cost, what I mean by that is I actually did a lot of interviews, a lot of recordings, a lot of conversations with all the 16 types. And in order to learn about people at a deep level, I had to cross a lot of boundaries. And crossing those boundaries probably is not the smartest thing to do if you're trying to remain friends. But in the name of science, I have had to cross some boundaries that I think I didn't know at the time, but knowledge comes at a price. And a lot of people don't want to be known at a very deep level. That's something I can confirm. Is many people do not want to be understood. Because if you understand a person at a deep level, they also feel scared. They feel like there's potential danger that could come from it. So we've got the right out now. So I made a lot of copies of the templates, right? So the idea here, the idea here is that we're going to see if there are really any deep and interesting patterns that we can see, and I'm glad that did not eliminate. How did that happen? Can't see it. I hope. So are there any deep patterns we can see? I believe there are a lot of deep patterns we can see. So we are primarily focused on FI. And I think these patterns might be quite useful. Okay. Let's get started. So what I noticed about ISFPs and INFPs, and this is mine, FI, if we want to understand it, introversion is when you turn inwards. Feeling, F, is kind of about the emotional values. Emotion is about values. It's about, do I value this thing or do I not value this thing? In terms of values, like, how do you feel about this movie? Either you don't like it, you have no feeling, you're indifferent, or you like it. So feelings, if we're going to get very basic, could be described as 3 different shades of to dislike, to be neutral, and to dislike. And when I was telling you about how I had to acquire knowledge at a cost, I would just give you an example. Many of my friends who are INFPs, they dislike typology. Like, they fundamentally believe typology goes against their core values. So what do core values mean? Core values are like boundaries. Like, if we looked at a person internally, what they like and what they dislike could be 2 different sets. Like in math, a set theory. A set of things you like and a set of things you don't like and a set of things that you're neutral to. That's 3 different sets. So let's see if there was a person a normal person, everybody is an FI user. But the question is, how much does FI factor into their decision making? So let's say me, I'm an INFJ. I have things that I don't like. I have things that I'm neutral to. And I have things that I really like, these 3 different sets. So I like MBTI. But in my actual lived experience, many of the INFPs that I know do not like MBTI. So when I like this thing, I feel very good and passionate about it. They might feel passionate hate towards it. And as FI moves closer to the top of a person's cognitive stack, what I believe is happening is that they will make their decisions they will put more weight in their decision-making process based on these I dislike, I'm neutral, and I like. And I noticed something about ISFPs and INFPs. They don't play with their cards, their hands revealed. You see, most people don't play with their cards revealed. Like if you're playing a card game with someone, you're interacting with a stranger, you're interacting with your best friend. Do you actually tell them everything you like and you dislike and you're neutral to? What if what they like and what you like is not the same? Like, for example, what if you like pornography and they dislike pornography? What if you think, it's totally okay to follow your desires, but someone else thinks a person who follows their desires, especially of a carnal nature, is fundamentally immoral. So this is something that came up to me, is that introverted people in general do not play with all their cards on the table. Now, extroverted people, I'm saying introverted and extroverted people do not play with all their cards on the table. You're playing a card game, you should hide your cards. So it's normal to hide your cards because you're living in a world where you do not know that much about the people that you're dealing with. And what if they like the things you don't like, and what if you don't like the things they like? So why do people have small talk? It's because it's like, I don't know what your cards are. I don't know what you value. You don't know what I value. And in people's actual lived experience, if I like something that you dislike and you dislike something that I like, it's going to negatively impact the relationship. I have had people cut me off because I've written articles on my social media about typology. The thing is, like, let's just pretend, and this is true story, is like if some of my INFP friends, some of them actually extremely dislike typology because they're like, there's 1.4 billion people in China. How can you possibly dare categorize them into 16 buckets? That's blatant stereotyping. That is stereotyping. So yes, many INFP friends hate being stereotyped, and they consider any type of stereotyping to be extremely against their core values, which is ironic because they will stereotype against people who stereotype. So they will stereotype against people who use typology like MBTI or personality enneagram as people who are unethical. And what's crazy is when I might interact with them, if I'm socializing, I'm like, hey, what's up? What's your MBTI? They actually might be like, this person used to be a friend that I really valued, and they've made it very clear they don't want anything to deal with me. Her name is Ria because I was the one who gave her name. She asked me to give her name, RIA. I think she's a very good example because when I first asked her, when I met her on the beach, I asked her, oh, what's your MBTI? She's like, I don't know. But what's so funny is I asked her a lot of questions and I was able to type her as an INFP. And then I got to know her for several months. And several months later, she sent me a text message from her own social media account where she said she revealed, okay, when we met, she pretended she didn't know her MBTI. And she pretended she didn't know much about it. But she revealed months later that she had been into MBTI before it got popular in Asia. And that she had actually tested. And she sent me the screenshot of her MBTI, and it was INFP. So she knew she was an INFP. But when she was dealing with me, she pretended to know that she had not tested as an INFP. That's where they're hiding the cards. And then, when I actually when I deduced that she was the INFP, there's a few things that why do you hide your cards? Because you don't want to give away an information advantage. You know something, but you don't want other people to know. Like, for example, if you know you're an INFP, and you don't want other people to like, if you want to test other people's skills in typology, you don't need to tell them what you are. You can actually hold back that information and see if they're able to deduce what you were. So I believe that, so when she revealed that she was an INFP, she also did not reveal, I'm serious, she did not reveal that she actually strongly dislikes people who use MBTI to make decisions or analyze people, because that in her mind is a very stereotyping way. Even though she has used it even though she used it for self-reflection, it goes against her core values for people to actually take this stuff seriously, to analyze other people. And so she, as an INFP, does not know anything about the other types. She doesn't really understand the other types. She just used it as a self-reflection tool. So she had in her like and dislike. So she liked MBTI when it was not popular. But when MBTI became popular, she didn't like it. And then she also likes many self-reflection tools. MBTI is acceptable in her mind as a self-reflection tool. But as soon as you start to use it as your primary method, or as a serious method to actually group people and break them into these kind of different types, then you're now, the word stereotype has the word type in it. Stereotype is when you start to look at people as types of people. So typology is a typing system which is trying to look at, wow, we have a 1.4 billion people, how do we sift them down to smaller types? That actually violates her values. And I'm using this as an example to give us a complex look. This Ria, INFP friend, ex-friend, she was hiding what she liked so that she could learn what I like. Because when she can learn what I like, she can get a good read on me. She doesn't want me to get a good read on her. She wants to get a good read on me. And then how her attitude, because feeling, feeling, how do you feel inside about this thing? It's an attitude. Do you dislike? Do you neutral? Do you like? So she liked she liked IMBTI as a self-reflective tool when it was not popular, conditional. She disliked it when it became popular, and she also dislikes people who would use stereotyping methods. And in her cognitive process, she considers MBTI and other typologies as a stereotyping method. So she would consider those people who use these things as ignorant and people who are fill in the blank with negative terms. I did notice similarities between my ISFP friends and INFP friends where their likes and their dislikes, why does it actually factor such a big part of the decision-making process? I believe that their feelings are much more rich. Like, they actually have a much more higher definition when it comes to feelings. If we're going to put it in more simplistic terms, I think they had to actually feel more. I actually think FI, going closer to the surface, they feel more. Let's say someone's looking at a movie in 1080p. Another person's looking at 4K. Another person's looking at 16K. I think ISFPs and INFPs are pretty much feeling their internal likes and dislikes at 16K, where I'm looking at 720p. There's a difference in quality of how they feel. That's what I have observed. However, ISFPs and INFPs differ in certain aspects where they both play it. They play their cards close to their chest, where they're not revealing that much. They would prefer to have things to be a guessing game, as in they have an innate distrust of what people say, what people do, what people they somehow intuitively know that people are not trustworthy. And did they think people are untrustworthy, so they've introverted? I'm not sure which came first, but I think that ISFPs and INFPs always have some level of guard up. When this becomes apparently very apparent when they're kind of secretive. Like, their inner world is full of exploding colors, like their 16K feelings. And they're making a lot of their decisions based on how they feel, what they like, what they dislike, how they feel neutral. And to be honest, if they feel neutral about it, it's as if they don't like it. This is something scary about ISFPs and INFPs, because they're very clearly in touch with their feelings. At the 16K feeling, high definition, they're very clear about how they feel about things. It's so clear to them. And they don't want that to be clear to other people. Like, they're not trying to let other people know how they feel. Partially because how they feel could cause judgment. It could cause negative outcomes. This was apparent in my friend. This was my friend. Which one? My friend Annie, or Wang Wei. So, small story is that she and her friend were about to go on a train. And her friend says, you need to buy some instant noodles so you make sure you're not hungry. And my friend says, no, thank you. I already have snacks, so I don't need that. And then her friend got angry and said, wow, you don't want to listen to me? You never listen. And she basically tried to be a parent to my friend and say, oh, you need to buy this food so you will have enough food. This offended my friend because my friend thought, first of all, I'm an adult. I know what I need to eat and what I don't need to eat. You don't need to tell me. She thought this in her head and felt it. She didn't say it. And then she didn't like the second part where it's like, you never listen to me. It's an attitude of, oh, I don't like your attitude. And she also said that the friend that said this the friend commanded her, and when she did not comply to the command, her friend was full of negative anger. She was upset that ISFP did not listen to her. And then when she actually went to the train ride, ISFP friend Annie did not say anything. She didn't know what to say. She wished she could say how she felt, but she felt extremely disturbed by this small incident. This small incident made her feel terrible. She felt her boundaries were violated. She felt, one, I'm an adult, but you're telling me what I have to do when I clearly know how to take care of myself. So it's triggered. Second is, as friends, I care how you feel, but you are not respecting my agency. I made a choice, and instead of being like, oh, okay, the friend had a lot of negative affect. She showed that she was not happy with her face and her tone. And SF is a very highly sensitive person, SF. So a highly sensitive person will absorb that negative energy and feel miserable and very conflicted. And third, so she went silent mode, is she didn't like that she was put into a situation where she has to express how terrible she feels, because she knows if I tell her how terrible I feel, she might say something even more hurtful, say something like, oh, such a small thing, I'm just trying to take care of you, or get guilt tripped. So she did not know how to process these feelings, but she could feel what she didn't like, and she knew clearly what she didn't like, and it didn't make her feel good, and the next day it was stuck in her head and it hurt her. I think this is why ISFPs and INFPs do two things. One is when they interact with people, they tend to be pretty friendly. Friendly in the sense that they seem to be very, very inclusive of other people. They seem to let other people say what they want and give you that freedom of speech. And I think they actually create a situation where they themselves, in order to protect themselves, they hide how they feel. But they do some friendly maneuvering to bait people to reveal how they truly feel. This will give the ISFP and an INFP a kind of the high ground. It will give them an advantage where they are like, I know how you feel now. Now I could feel safe to reveal how I feel. And the reason why they're not the first revealers how they feel is because they have extremely sensitive instrumentation where if conflict arises with other people, they feel that pain much, much more deeply than some of the more insensitive types. So, because of high sensitivity to feelings, they need to close off themselves to protect themselves from getting hurt. And so this is something that I associate with FI, where it almost seems biological, where their feeling system is so deep, so high definition, that it can really get out of control really quickly. So a lot of the pleasantry and all the being polite and being open-minded in the front end is not simply I'm trying to be open-minded because I love being open-minded. It's actually a protective mechanism where they can gain an information advantage. By being friendly, being open, other people feel safe. So they can give other people a feeling of safety to reveal how they feel, where they are hiding their own feeling of not being safe. So I find that ISFPs and INFPs many times do not feel safe, but they can lure people into feeling safe. And this is how they're trying to protect their FI decision-making power. And I don't even believe, because I have quite a few INFP and ISFP friends, I don't believe that they may not even know how to accurately help other people understand how they feel. So I'm not trying to say they're trying to bait people maliciously. I'm using the word bait because that's how it seems like from the outside. But on some level, it could be the case that the feelings they have inside could not be verbalized easily. Like, even when I talked to my friend about the story, and I shared the story of my ISFP friend Annie to the ISFP Discord channel, other ISFPs at first did not understand where the conflict was. They just thought, the first instinct was, what's going on? Like, why would the ISFP feel that way? So even between an ISFP communicating their feelings to other ISFPs, it is not necessarily the case that other ISFPs will understand how they feel. And I do know people who are INFPs dating each other, and their INFPs' feelings do not necessarily match because everyone's FI values, what they like and they dislike, what they're neutral are very unique to that individual person. So the thing that you need to know is ISFPs and INFPs, they kind of like and dislike things that are different from each other. So even when they meet each other, they need to be guarded and they need to be protective. And I think on some level they suspect or they have made a mistake of they think that other people feel as deeply as them. And they think that other people like and dislike things as much as they like and dislike things. Whereas actually that's not the case. Like, a lot of other types just don't even know what they like, don't even know what they feel. Like, they don't feel that much. Like, oh, what? Oh, what are you talking about? Feelings? I think that's something like ISTPs. ISTPs should be FI and they have FI in the demonstrative. The thing is, like, actually many types do not care what they like. Very duty-based. Duty-based types do not make decisions based on feelings. So ISFPs and INFPs, they are kind of trying to overprotect themselves because they think that other people's inner feeling worlds are just as rich, and they think that other people are also hiding how they feel. And so there can be I think there's some kind of funny situation where they might be the ones feeling so deep and they hide it. And to other people, they seem fine and they seem so neutral. They seem so chill, but they're not chill. Like, inside, they're not chill. Like, inside, there's like explosions, volcanoes, rainbows. What's going on inside? There's so much feeling. But they present themselves in a much more controlled manner where other people are like, oh, you seem fine. And other people, internally, their internal feelings may not be as rich. So other people might express a lot of feelings on their face, but inside there's not that much feeling going on. ISFPs, INFPs feel like they're feeling so much inside, but they're expressing so little, and they're trying to put up a face and keep neutral. So sometimes conflict can arise with ISFPs and INFPs, I believe, where they're under-communicating and under-sharing how they really feel. They're not really getting people to understand what's happening in their inner world. And other people can have a hard time understanding how they feel and what's happening inside because other types may not feel as deeply as them. I'm going to continue in the next part. And this is about, hopefully we can get into all these types. All right, we'll continue onward. I have an example. One of my ISFP friends says they don't like, or they prefer certain races. Like, for example, they might be Chinese, for example. And they might prefer the faces of foreigners over those of their own people. So let's say their FI value really, really likes this. Can they actually reveal this feeling to everyone? Probably not. Like, if you were talking to people who are not that open-minded, they might, let's say you're a Chinese person on a date with another Chinese person. When you told them you prefer the faces of foreigners to Chinese people, they would actually feel like, you're a traitor or something. So there is a real reason why an ISFP who had feelings like, I like this or I don't like that, they're not going to be the most open about revealing what they like and they dislike until they have that feeling of safety. One of my ISFP friends explained to me that okay, so this is interesting things. I think we're good friends. Me and her, I think we're good friends. But honestly, from her angle, we're not good friends. Like, from her angle, we're just friends. And when we were discussing about how she feels, it's like, the reason I feel she's a good friend is because I feel like I can tell her everything. But she does not feel like she can tell me everything. She feels like she needs to hide a lot from me. And she also feels that, it's interesting. She says that in her life, she's never met a person like me. So when she's talking to me, if the x-axis is time and the y-axis is the feeling of safety, the feeling of safety goes up as we talk. But if we talk about certain topics, let's say we're vibing. So when it's like, hey, what's up? Her feeling of safety might be very low. But as we start talking, her feeling of safety goes up and up and up and up and up. But suddenly I say something like, that's different. That I say something that makes her feel like we're different, or she has no comparison model between me and other people. Like, I've said something like, that makes her feel slightly like, I'm not the same as her. Then her feeling of safety drops dramatically at that moment. So what's interesting is I'd actually say that the ISFP and INFP are a bit different than me, because when an INFJ, talk to someone, at first I will say I might not have a feeling of safety at first, but once we get to talking, I will turn off my safety sensor. Basically, if we start talking and we get along, I'll turn off the safety sensor. Unless they mention something about money. If they mention something about money, then my safety alarms will go up and suddenly I will be suspicious of the person. Or if they try to do something that manipulates me, then my safety button will go, I'll go on high alert. But my friend, she made me realize that for her system, no matter who her friend is, doesn't matter how close her friends are, her alarm system never goes off. As in, like, if she's talking to her close friend, her safety button will get more, the feeling of safety will go up. But if something happens or says something that slightly makes her feel uncomfortable, her feeling of safety will drop very, very low. So there seems to be an extreme lack of feeling of safety in perhaps both types. I think it could be on both types, because the INFPs I know have, like, the real danger with INFPs, dealing with INFPs, is the more you talk to them, the more you feel safe, like, wow, we're vibing, we're getting along so well. And then when you guys are getting along really well, they're going to pop a question. A very important question, like, how do you feel about communism? How do you feel about animals' rights? They'll pop a question on you that tests your similarity. Do you like and dislike things in the same direction? Like, they might like communism, they might dislike communism. So when you're popped with that question, they're testing, oh, do you like and dislike like them? And when you answer differently than them, their brain might completely recategorize you based off your answer. Like based off, like for example, let's say they ask, do you like communism? And you don't like communism. You say you don't like communism, and they like communism. Suddenly their feeling of safety with you will drop significantly, and suddenly we're not on the same team anymore. So I found that INFPs have this amazing ability to make people feel safe, to feel seen, feel heard. INFPs are very helpful. Like, you could get deep conversations with INFPs fast, and they can help you sort out some of your emotional problems. They can heal some of those emotional problems that you yourself are facing. And this is the sad part, is when they help you heal, you feel good about it. So you have a sense of, we are really good friends, and you want to reciprocate. And you feel lulled into this, wow, we're best buddies. But in the INFP system, they don't determine you as a best buddy until they have asked you the big questions that really matter to them. So when they ask, how do you feel about communism? That's a core part of their identity, because it's interesting, because there's like two types of people that I've heard this about from Socionics Encyclopedia. This is a YouTube channel. They said that there seems to be two types of people. People who they build their identity based on relationships. I am the son of this. I am from this province. And there are people who build relationships, build their identity based on of what they like and what they dislike, basically on their preferences, which is a choice. I like this, I dislike this. Or so that means there are some people who build their identity as like, they are from this province and they are the son of this person. So they have a duty and obligation to this identity because they belong to this culture. Their belongingness is related to this relationship. But some people's identity is very much built on, they like communism or they dislike communism, or they like this, they like this, or they like that. All right, continuing on this. So what happens if a person builds their identity on what they like and they dislike? And so, for example, if they are a nationalist and you're an anti-nationalist, and their identity is, I'm a nationalist. This is where their sense of self-worth, this is where their sense of purpose, this is where their sense of direction comes from. And you're not on the same political spectrum as them. They like Trump. You dislike Trump. All of a sudden, there forms a rift. Now, I belong to the camp of people that believes how a person treats me is much more important than what they like and what they dislike. So I believe in the relational, like, what's our relationship? Do you treat me with respect? Do I treat you with respect? Have you helped me? Like an INFP, for example, if an INFP helped me resolve some problems in my life, I want to reciprocate and be friends with them. And I want to help them. But if they ask questions, do you like this? Do you like that? How do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And if I do not match how they feel, there can be a situation where they want to break the relationship because their identity is based on what they like and what they dislike, whereas my identity is based on relationships where if you treat me well, I'll treat you well. So INFPs, I think, might have a situation where they actually treat a lot of people. I think ISFPs might have this, but I'm not sure because they hide it pretty well. But they might have this situation where they like and they dislike things strongly, so strongly that they cannot tolerate things that they don't like. Versus, for me, I'm more relational. Look, I might be, for example, I may not like, let's say I may not like, so let's say I like typology. I like MBTI. So I dislike it when people dislike typology. But if a person who dislikes typology treats me well, I'll still be a friend of them. But for example, let's say I disliked Trump, which I don't like or dislike because I never met him. But let's say I dislike Trump, and someone likes Trump. If they treated me well, I would look at him treating me well. I would not care whether they liked or disliked Trump. But a lot of people, they don't care whether you treat them well. They care whether you like and dislike the same things. And this is where a lot of crowds, it's very, very funny, is that when you start to look at crowds and cliques, a lot of crowds like the same vibe. In China, it's pretty obvious. But let's say it's really weird because in some cases, let's say you treat a person very well, better than all their friends, but you're not the same vibe as them. You don't dress the same, you don't like the same stores, you don't like the same entertainment. We see this phenomenon where certain people, like large groups of people, are trying to copy. Like they literally have tattoos on the same place, the collarbone. They literally wear the same yoga pants. They literally do the same Pilates exercise. They literally do the same exercises, take the same tattoos, take photos in the same angles as other people. There's a huge mirroring game where a huge number of people are very clearly FI users in the sense that they don't actually care whether you treat them well or not. Who they like and who they dislike is whether those people like and dislike the same things that they like, and they move towards a vibe. And so it can be frustrating because, like, let's say you're a person doesn't follow the same vibe, or maybe you like multiple vibes. Like I like multiple vibes. So let's say I like multiple vibes, but I don't fit in with just one vibe. They're thinking you gotta like this vibe and dislike. And a lot of people say a bird of a feather flock together. They say that in Chinese to say, well, if you're not the same type of person, then we don't fit together, which is crazy because a lot of people in the same vibe who like and dislike the same things, they still treat each other really badly. And a lot of people who are not from the same vibe actually treat each other much, much better. And if you're with people who like and dislike the exact same things, you get into an echo chamber. Like, let's say if all the people who like Trump become an echo chamber and all the people who dislike Trump become an echo chamber, they start saying the exact same things and then they lose perspective on the world, which puts any in the blind spot for ISFP, right? Perspective. Oh shoot. How's this going? I feel like this equipment has a little bit of issue. Not sure why it's not saving. These are the blind spots. Oh, that's not good. Then we got hero. So it's hero, parent, child, vulnerable, opposing, critic, blind, trickster, demon. ISFP, it could be the case that when you really start hanging out with people who only share the same things you like and dislike, you actually get like some serious funny problems. Like for example, if you like the same type of guys as your friend, if you and your friends like the same kind of guys, then your competition would be the same, because if you like the same things, you'll compete for the same things, so you'll actually have to be, it's actually going to get harder to get what you want when the competition goes up. It's also possible to fall into these echo chambers where the trickster, the blind spot, you just don't have as many perspectives as it would be beneficial to. So ironically, it's in the best interest of an ISFP to have friends who have different likes and dislikes as them. INFPs, I think it's the same way. So they do have SE as a blind spot. So in my personal experiences, ISFPs are much more, ironically, are much more focused on how do you make me feel in the moment, and do you respect me? They also, to their defense, they are very respectful of other people's boundaries because they have such sensitive boundaries. They're very sensitive. They don't want their boundaries crossed, and they don't want to cross other people's boundaries. So ISFPs tend to create an imbalanced relationship where they create a situation where their friends can overshare and they undershare. They don't feel completely safe to reveal too much about themselves, what they like and they dislike, because they want to avoid controversy. They want to avoid conflict. And they want to enjoy what they like. And the SE is easier for them to enjoy because, like, SE is more about good food, good clothing, good pictures. And in the world of girls, these things girls can bond over pictures, photos, good food, and fun sensory experiences. So ISFPs do have they're going to have some level of social success, I think, in their younger years, because at the younger years, what people like and they dislike are more similar. It would appear that as people get older, what they like and they dislike will start to diverge. And this is something that we've seen someone say about ISFPs is SE being above NI means that SE is studying physics, what is in the physical world, and I is studying the metaphysics, what is beyond the physical world. So the ISFP tends to actually, they have likes and dislikes from FI, but their SE is strong. So they have a strong nervous sensing system. So they like to explore the world of the senses, the physical world. But after they explore the world of the physical world for some time, they start to realize beyond the physical world, NI, there's a metaphysical world worth exploring. And they also want to find things that they like and they dislike in that NI world. So if I had to recap this is on ISFPs, I feel that ISFPs, they are very mysterious. They're very easily misunderstood. I think ISFPs also very easily misunderstand other people. NE is being in the back and the trickster function. I think ISFPs actually have a hard time putting themselves in other people's shoes. Like, they're not the most... ISFP is not the most logical type, for example. So it's hard for them to actually put themselves in the shoes of a person who does not make decisions based off likes and dislikes, like FI. Like, FI is so influential in their decision-making process. It could be very hard for them to understand other people who do not make decisions like that. And for the ISFP to really grow, I think they need to counter. Actually, this is interesting. The growth path for the ISFP, how can they... They need to basically understand that the feelings, what you like is not necessarily good for you. What you dislike is not necessarily bad for you. So FI is somewhat deceptive. The heart is deceitful kind of thing. Your heart, internally, how you feel, it's not like the system is flawless. Granted, logical systems are also not flawless, but emotional system is not flawless. but the emotional system feels right. That's so scary. Is the FI the feeling of certainty, the feeling of uncertainty, the feeling of safety, the feeling of not being safe. Basically, to put it bluntly, the ISFPs, perhaps it's the amygdala or whatever, it might be the amygdala is going crazy, where when they're not safe, they might feel safe. When they're safe, they might not feel safe. When they might actually have a miscoordination between how they internally feel and how they're supposed to feel. And I think that can be very weird. Is like let's for example, I remember hanging out with two ISFP friends, and they did things that are not safe at all. I'm not able to say exactly what they did, but I'm just saying that they put themselves in dangerous positions because they felt safe when they're not safe. So like just because you feel safe does not mean you're safe, and just because you don't feel safe does not mean you're safe. So a lot of times when they're socializing with other people, they'd undershare because they don't feel safe when actually they're supposed to feel safe because they're actually safe. So they're having this incongruency between how safe are they actually in that situation and how safe do they actually feel. There seems to be a mismatch. I can tell you that's something that I've seen ISFPs do. And also, I think sometimes ISFPs, because of FI-NI loop, sometimes they feel certain about something or uncertain about something, and they're using their feeling of certainty or uncertainty to determine whether that is true or false, or whether that's correct or wrong. When actually, that internal compass can bring them great pleasure, happiness, and great pain, suffering, but it is not the gauge of what is true and what is not true. It is not actually an accurate instrument to tell you what is certain and what is uncertain. So the ISFP is in a very weird situation where they have something telling them, I feel certain, I feel uncertain, and it is not actually one for one accurate with whether things are certain or things are uncertain. So I think ISFPs feel more unsafe than they really are in a lot of situations, and they feel very safe in situations that they're not safe at all, which can lead to some really bad decisions. And I think this also could make why NI the child, why it could actually be overused, is because if your internal feeling compass is not that well tuned, or it is kind of haywire, so to speak, it's more comfortable to just find it's comfortable to find a path that, like, to basically stay on a comfortable path. Like NI is about, this is the path has been found, let's stay on it, and let's stick to a path that makes sense to us. So based off what you like and you dislike, NI starts to stay to a path that makes sense to you, and it feels like, well, it feels like you're on the right path when your feelings are lined up with that feeling of NI, that feels right, that path seems to converge. But actually, I think that the ISFP should really consider different perspectives and consider their perspective as potentially very deceptive. The ISFPs can easily be self-deceived in terms of how certain they feel about things. And so I think whenever they feel certain, they should say, I feel certain, that means something's not right. And when they say, I feel uncertain, they should think, maybe there's more certainty than there really is. So that when they feel certain, they should try to find uncertainty. When they are uncertain, they should try to find certainty. And they should do that by using NE, by actually finding new perspectives and connecting with other people who can give them different perspectives and actually help them recalibrate their internal feeling system. This is very challenging because FE in the opposing position means that you might not actually, they might not feel so good about being influenced by other people. Because FE represents being influenced by other people. I have to delete a lot of these because the NI is incorrect for... Uh-oh. That might have been a little bit too much deleting. The INFP has a different situation going down. But they kind of... The INFP likes things so deeply and dislikes things so deeply, where I would actually say that they look at things from many perspectives. They explore many things. But then they put value judgments on the things they explore. They like this because it makes them feel good. They dislike this because it makes them feel bad. And I think there's something here that I would warn INFPs about. Just because a thing makes you feel bad, it does not need to be liked or disliked. It can be allowed to be what it is. Because let's say you dislike exercise, but if you dislike exercise, exercise can give you things that you like. So things that you like and you dislike, it's kind of an oversimplification of what things really are. Like, let's say communism. Do you like or dislike it? It's complicated because there's not just one communism. This person thinks communism is this. That person thinks communism is that. Many things do not need to be liked or disliked. They could be just understood. That is something that I, as an INFJ, am very much about. I don't go around saying, I like this, or I dislike this, or this needs to be labeled with an emotional value. A lot of things can just be understood. Like, understand this from that perspective. So, for example, if my friend Ria dislikes typology and MBTI, okay, you dislike that. That's your perspective. But you become mature when you start to realize your perspective and other people's perspective are all valuable. It's not just your perspective, what you like. I dislike this because it makes me feel bad. That, when you get stuck in that, then you basically nullify the value of other perspectives. Because typology exists because there are a lot of people like me who actually see, whoa, typology has helped my life. So the INFP has the any ability to explore other perspectives, but they are too trapped in I like this. Like I like this, I dislike this. Oh, MBTI I dislike. So people who like MBTI I also dislike. It is an oversimplification. To really get at the heart of the matters, to say I dislike MBTI because I believe that it is stereotyping people. But Chris, my friend, likes MBTI because it helped him. It helped him understand himself. It helped make his life better. And to say that this person's perspective and this person's perspective, to say they're all equal and they're all valuable, I think that's when the INFP will get that aha moment. I have a good INFP friend named Hanks. He met a guy from Israel, and he said, oh, hey, where are you from? Which country are you from? The guy said, I'm from Israel. His immediate reaction was, so his any was like, oh, there's a new person. I wonder what country he's from. When he heard the guy's from Israel, his FI values said, I dislike this person, because in his mind, his SI heard a lot about how Israel has hurt and killed a lot of people. So he immediately disliked this guy for being Israeli. But then he asked questions like, what do you think about the attack on Palestine, for example? And now when he heard the Israelis speak. He did seek the perspective of any, but he judged every perspective he saw based off of a FI, like and dislike system. And FISI also has something about based off the stored data. It's more internal. Like SI is about filing memories. And then FI is about assigning them a feeling, I like or dislike. So my INFP friend Hanks, he read about Israel doing bad things. That was stored in his SI memory system. And FI gave it a like and a dislike. So he obviously disliked Israel. And so even though he was seeking perspective in any, he would override the person's perspective. Like this person's perspective was not valued because it went against the SI, or it was not valued because based off his FI-SI system, he had already formed a strong opinion on whether he likes or dislikes a thing. And I think that I'm just kind of going for a stretch here because INFPs have the SE blind, whereas ISFPs do not have the SE blind. So how does this work out differently? Because they do start with the FI as Dom, but there's something different. INFPs seem to, they use any to search for the perspectives, and then they label it and judge it with the FI. The filing system SI defers to a pre-existing FI judgment. Whereas SE, which would be more in touch with reality, would actually be like, hey, there's a guy from Israel here. It's so rare, because like it's so rare for an Israeli to come to China. So since there's a real Israeli from here in China, instead of judging him based off of what I have already stored in my SI system, why don't we have a rare opportunity for cultural exchange and build that friendship, build that point of contact? Because if you build that friendship with that person, when that person returns to Israel, next time you see news from the Israel, you have a person to verify with, and that's a valid perspective. I think this is something I would do. I don't care whether a person is from Russia or Israel. My SE would see value, would see the rareness. Being very realistic, I'd say this person is a rare person in front of me. Why would I push away someone who's a rare opportunity? I didn't meet many Israelis in my life. Why can't we cherish that moment? I think SE is about cherish that moment. That's something that INFPs, I think, kind of drop the ball on. Is if something hits their internal system, the FI-SI internal system, they are not going to feel good about it. They're just going to actually ignore the reality of, hey, why don't we just cherish that moment? There's no need to get angry about this. So I think INFPs also are known to be kind of emo sometimes. Your emotional mood swings come, I believe, from FI-SI, where their memories are encoded very sharply, and their FI puts strong feelings to those memories. And the human brain, just all humans remember the bad things more than the positive. So when people remember bad things and they're like recounting bad things, it's because the human brain has this cognitive bias. So it is highly recommended that if you want to remember the good things in your life, you actually need to take pictures, record them. You need to have built-in rituals that will help you appreciate the good moments in life, because basically the human brain likes to remember bad things. Now, that's all human beings. INFPs especially remember the bad things because they feel more than an average human being, and their memory system is a little bit better than the average human being because of FI and SI. And they get stuck in this feeling heavy feelings that make them hurt. And the way they should jump out is by seeking those new perspectives. But I think the INFP could save themselves some trouble by realizing the feelings they feel do not represent the full story. How you feel about a thing and how other people feel about things is not the same. And so FE in the opposing, valuing how other people feel and validating that your feelings and my feelings, they're all valuable, is a very important part for the INFP to really explore that any is like any how the Israeli guy feels and how you feel. They're all important. And to like just push away someone and say, well, I don't feel good. I don't feel good because you're an Israeli, because I've heard bad things about you guys. That's what causes more suffering from wars and stuff like that. When we just say your perspective doesn't matter, excuse me, only my feelings matter, that is a trap that they could fall into. SE, trying to get back in the present, saying, how can we appreciate and cherish the moment? So I think INFPs should learn how to counter if they have those stormy, negative emotional feelings. Those negative, stormy feelings, those feelings are not the true reality. Like, that's just an emotional response. An emotional response based off what you like and what you dislike does not mean, it's a very subjective thing. Whereas SE, come back to the objective reality and say, hey, how I feel about this is not the whole story. That's where NE should be used. How I feel about this is not the whole story. SE is the real reality. And the only way we're going to get the real reality is if we use NE to actually check, go outside, externalize, search outwards, because FISI just searches inwards. NE searches outward and checks. Is how I feel, is that the full story? No, it's not the full story. The full story is spread out among the different perspectives in the world. So ironically, ISFPs, I believe, are much harder to get trapped. ISFPs don't even have as good of a memory as INFPs generally. And ISFPs that I know are kind of notorious for like not remembering stuff. It is said that SE takes in so much data that they need to delete data in their mind. Like, they have so much, you only have so much space in your brain. SE is about getting more data. It's like a camera. The only way you get more data in the system is you need to delete data. So ISFPs with SE, they're taking in so much from their environment, they delete things from the SI, the critic. But the INFP is not taking in that much from their surroundings because SE is their trickster. So they have more memory. So the INFP has more memory in the computer system, whereas ISFP is like a very high definition camera that films things in high definition, and it takes up too much storage, so they're completely deleting their memory. So what's funny is I think ISFPs have a harder time to actually they have a harder time to to become vengeful. Because ISFPs kind of like, I've talked to ISFPs. Let's say we're talking for 2 minutes, or let me talk for an hour. One ISFP friend said she forgot everything we talked about 2 minutes ago. What's so funny is, at the moment we talked, within her 2 minute memory span, she could respond and tell you exactly what you said to her. So she was listening attentively for those 2 minutes, but everything that she was talking about 2 minutes ago was overwritten with new information. And it's so funny because she was able to respond to me so well, but then what happened before was completely deleted. So her attentiveness was so sharp from SE, but her SI was not storing much. And so she was actually very fun to be around, where she said she didn't even didn't care if we continued talking and repeating things. And that's something I noticed with ISFPs. I think ISFPs actually enjoy talking to me more than INFPs because I'm an NI Dom, and NI is a child function for ISFPs. When they are basically listening to me to talk, I think they actually forget a lot of what I just said. So it's like you could watch a movie over and over again, because if you forgot what the movie happened, then it's like a new movie every single time you watch it. So NI is kind of like, wow. It's like, wow. You get that wow factor over and over again talking about the same thing. But I think INFPs and most people with NE, they have a limited patience for a specific topic before they need to turn it. They need to change it. So I consider ISFPs to be much weaker memory. Therefore, it's harder for them to be offended by the things that happened in the past. And they're much more patient and more focused, and they can get very they can talk about things at a they can talk about things for long periods of time without feeling exhausted. They could listen and discuss. Whereas I think INFPs are prone to exhaustion because they feel, they store, they have so much going on in their minds and their brains. Whereas NI is more about being focused on something, and FI is more about how. So the FI is common; they both feel very heavily, but NI is being focused and simplifying and making things much more simple in the mind. Whereas SI is about picking up all these details and just getting it into memory. And so INFPs could be much more interested in history. I've also noticed this with a couple of my ISFP friends. I don't know if it's true with all of my ISFP friends out there, but at least in China, I found that my ISFP friends, one friend, she didn't even want to. She didn't even want to watch in the Chinese New Year. She didn't want to watch the. There was a lion dance. I don't know if this is contradictory, but I noticed my ISFP friends were super hard to offend, but they didn't, they liked things that were actually SE stimulating, and they didn't really like things that were too traditional or too historic or too. They seem to be more modern or more future oriented. More, it's not about the past. It's more about something cool in the present. Like, so for example, it's Chinese New Year's and you have a chance to watch a very traditional performance on the Chinese New Year's Dragon Dance, or to look at the mall and look at the new cameras. My friend literally chose to look at the new cameras rather than the performance. And she said she got a very negative feeling when she was looking at things like, ugh, like, oh, this traditional stuff again. And I found my ISFP friends are very much interested in things that are not that traditional. They're very much interested in things that have I don't know if it's practical use or what because of SE, but they were like one of my ISFP friends took me out. We were traveling together, and we ate at like 8 restaurants in one day. And the restaurants she ate at, she didn't care if these restaurants had anything to do with that city's local specialty. Like, for example, if we were eating in a Chinese city and she was eating at a French bakery or at this coffee shop, she didn't care at all. Didn't care at all if this is like the local specialty. Like, what she cared about the most was, does this thing taste good? Does this thing look good in pictures? Does this thing look nice, feel it? So it was clear that she was evaluating things from an SE lens. She didn't go like, oh, let's go here, this city, let's eat all their special foods. She was just like, I just want to, like, even though the city she's from, Beijing, has coffee shops, she didn't care if she went to another city to go eat at coffee shops, even if her city had coffee shops. She's just like, if it has a good experience, I'm for it. I've noticed ISFPs are pretty much down for things that have some kind of good sensory experience, whereas I feel like INFPs can get detailed into they're like really interested in the historical, the traditional. And you just get this feeling that also INFPs, they will tell, like, I remember even Ria, we were eating at a restaurant on her birthday. It's like, I was like, hey, do you want to eat at any restaurant? Let's go eat at any restaurant. Like, she was like, yeah, let's eat a McDonald's. Like, she didn't care about, like, the SE experience. She cared about something else. Like, she fundamentally did not care about, oh, we're eating in this restaurant. Is it very, very clean? Is the lighting amazing? She didn't seem to, like, SE really cares about, oh, is the vibe? Is the interior design on par? Is it this? The INFP friends seem to be lost in their own world in terms of when we are talking together, they are no longer in the present. We are entering the intuitive realm where we're discussing the world of ideas. And so they're not, just like me, the INFP and INFJ are more similar, right? More letters in common. It's interesting, INFP and INFJ are more similar in the sense that we will talk about the intuitive world. We will talk about the world of ideas. We'll get lost, and we don't care about what we're eating, or we might even not eat. We might just like forget what's happening. But the ISFP really does care. And ironically, this is a stretch, but I did notice that INFPs also cared more about being comfortable. So my INFP friends versus my ISFP friends, I think my ISFP friends could get themselves in a lot of highly stimulating, uncomfortable situations, SE, physically uncomfortable situations, but they'd be like, that's not a big deal. Whereas the INFPs are like, let's not move too much. Like they are more, in a way, the INFPs I notice are more romantic. Like they talk about more romantic kind of abstract ideas, but they were much more. They did care about being comfortable in the experience. Like SI represents, let's get comfortable, but not too stimulating. SE represents, let's get uncomfortable, let's go for more stimulation. So my ISFP friends would do some more crazier stuff. Not interested in the traditional stuff, but the INFPs could get into the traditional stuff and be more into the less stimulating environment, because their internal world has so much stimulation from the NE, so many ideas coming up. They're the ones who let's just walk and talk in somewhere nice and quiet. ISFP is like, that's too boring. We should like, let's go do something. Let's just actually something I like. Let's enjoy. And I don't know if I'm painting a picture very nicely for you guys, but I feel that I enjoy both types a lot. I am very wary though now of they can be offended, because I treasure the people who could be my friends, but ISFPs and INFPs are not straightforward people. And I don't think we should expect them to be straightforward people. So as friends to ISFPs and INFPs, we should accept that we live in an unsafe world. People are betraying people all the time. People are not that trustworthy. And the ISFP and INFPs have probably, by the time we're adults, they've probably been hurt a lot of times, and they have a very rich internal world. INFPs have so many cool, ISFPs can also have really cool ideas. I've met them with really cool ideas, especially on Discord. But the thing is, they both crave for a deeper connection, but they both have these like FI landmines and they're not sharing how they feel that much. And if you hit the landmine, you could make them feel really bad, and they might not tell you. So it's important when dealing with ISFPs and INFPs to not take advantage of they give you a lot of space, and they're good listeners and they're willing to help you out. But I think we should also realize that they're kind of closed off to other people, including us, and they don't do it on purpose. So when we deal with them, we need to realize that at any time that they can get triggered and then feel terrible, and then it can really harm the relationship. So to be preemptive is like, hey, let's do something you like. Like, what do you like? What do you dislike? That's something that matters to them. And also, if they ask you questions that seem like they're like, oh, what do you think about this communism? Oh, this. Try to figure out what they feel first, because to be honest, it's not necessary to have a logical conversation with all your friends, because some people cannot handle your perspective. So instead of trying to say, we need to match our perspectives for us to be friends, I think we should just look at our friends as, hey, how can we have a good experience together, and how can we avoid the bad experience together? If I want to have logical topics, I'll go find people who really want to talk about logical things, or people who want to talk about these perspectives. We need to know the limitations of each friendship, like what topics are productive and enjoyable for both people, and what are the areas that can trigger people and get people derailed. INFPs like talking about politics and religion, but they have strong beliefs about these things. So basically, if you're listening to an INFP about politics and religion, it's better to be a listener, because if you're a listener, then you're not going to trigger their FI. If you're a speaker, then you're going to accidentally trigger them. ISFPs seem to be less interested in religion and politics, as far as I can tell. They seem to be more interested in the reality of things. And I think ISFPs are pretty cool in the sense that I am understanding them to be one of the most intuitive sensors. As in, like, because FI is subjective and NI is. The thing is, FI is a subjective function. Are they all? It's very subjective. NI is also very subjective, and SE and TE are objective functions. So they have like two subjective functions in the top three. But they're lucky for them; they have a very objective function on the second function. They seem to be interested in what's real, and I saw a comment where ISFPs feel lonely among sensors because a lot of sensors can talk about things that are not deep enough for them. Like just pure gossip, not searching for the reality of things. But I think when they're talking to intuitives, the intuitives can be too crazy theoretical and too detached from reality, not SE enough. The INFPs literally have SE blind, so that could be like it's just too detached from reality, right? So what I would mention about that is ISFPs have this desire to have their internal world, the FI, to engage with what they like and to be in a happy feeling place because they feel so deeply. SE, they want to be attached to reality and enjoy the physical world. But NI, they want to explore the world. They want to explore that world that cannot be seen, the invisible metaphysical world. But at the same time, they're a little bit trapped. They're trapped a little bit about their first three functions trap them from the NE where they really need or they would really benefit from seeing things from the perspectives outside of themselves, outside of their own feelings, which I think that they could find in their partners and in their friends. So INFPs, in my mind, if you ask me, INFPs should actually find people who engage their SI, their TE, and their SE. The child, the vulnerable, and the trickster. And the ISFP should find people that engage their NI, their TE, and their NE. And this way, they can benefit from all the positive aspects of their stronger functions, whereas they can also be protected from the weaker aspects of their functions. We didn't get to talk about the DOMs, the auxiliary, the parent, the third, and the fourth FI, but I would just tell you that we can see something here where in my trend, ISFPs and INFPs, meaning the FI DOMs, what they like and they dislike, they feel the most, and they hide what they like and they dislike deeply to protect themselves, being introverts. The ESFPs and ENFPs are much more out there. FI is strong, but their FE is not weak. So they tend to be much more popular types because they know how to take care of other people's feelings, FE, but they also know how to take care of their own feelings. So luckily for them, their feelings are not the dominant thing that controls their decision-making process. So ESFPs and ENFPs, they feel strongly, they know what they like and they dislike, but the ENFP can ignore the discomfort. ENFPs can ignore uncomfortable feelings if they can serve any, and any being the new feeling, the feeling of new, something amazing new. So ENFPs are willing to betray their own likes and dislike for something that's new. This makes ENFPs constantly change this. I like this. I like this. I like this. So their likes and dislikes are not locked in as INFPs and ISFPs. FI is what they like and the dislike is much more static. ENFP is much more fluid because they're dom for ENFPs the NE to what's new. This is new. So their FI is constantly updating and they like this and they like this and they like this. They wear different clothes and they like this and they like this. They're like, ooh, they're like combining new things. So you can say that the dominant NE checks FI from being a static thing. It's like a flowing. It's like if FI is a pool of water, ISFPs and INFPs are in danger of that pool of water being stagnant and dead, not flowing. whereas ENFPs have any new water flowing and changing the water of the swimming pool, the FI swimming pool. ESFPs, while they know what they like inside their feeling system, I think they can betray their feeling system. Like, let's say an ESFP, they have feelings and values. They can betray it for something that is stimulating, something that truly stimulates them, whether it's dopamine or the stimulation. So they're ready for the stimulation. So, whereas the ISFP, their stimulation, they seek stimulation, but what they like and dislike inside is going to have a stronger voice. But ESFP is like the stimulation is what counts. Now, it's interesting when we look at, and you see something interesting is the FI DOMs are all introverts. The FI parents are all extroverts. The FI tertiaries are all introverts, and the FI vulnerables are all extroverts. So I think that's a very interesting pattern. Also, what's kind of interesting is ESFPs and ENFPs, they actually share the same blind function as opposed to the ISFP and INFPs. And ESFPs and ENFPs sharing TI blind, basically, they're not trying to build a model of how the world works as much. Like, they don't consider building a model of how the world works as important as actually going out there into the world and actually experiencing, actually exploring, which I admire because I am kind of a TI child function, so I overuse TI. So if you looked at an ESFP or an ENFP, that's a person who's not really using TI much. So they're just going and they're just experiencing and living. There's no need to build too much theoretical frameworks. Why waste so much time building theoretical frameworks when you can just live and enjoy your life? That's what the ESFP and ENFP would teach me, is you can just go out there. Theory is cool, but you don't need to spend your whole life building a theory, because if you start to build a grand theory of how the world works, you could spend your whole life and you'll never complete it. So INTJs and ISTJs also have the same blind function. So they put they're FE blind, which basically means they don't really, they're not able to feel how other people feel. They're something part of their brain makes them unable to actually feel and empathize with people at an accurate level. So because they're a logical type, they view the world in a logical structure. So they actually try to deduce how people feel rather than actually feel how other people feel themselves. And I think feelings in general make the INTJ and ISTJs uncomfortable. However, because FI is in the third function, it is a child function. They are overused. My mom's an ISTJ. INTJ friends, I've observed them for quite some time. While they try to be logical, what they like and what they believe in their core values, these things, like INTJs are known to criticize. It's the FI. They're overusing FI. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. My mom, ISTJ. I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like that. So FI being overused is saying, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. Which means, like, ironically, FI and the hero function, they're more about what they like. They know what they like. They're not over criticizing things. But when you hit what they don't like, they get triggered and they don't feel good, right? INTJs and ISTJs actually go out and start saying things that they don't like. The negative Nancy type, they actually start saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. Whereas ESFPs and ENFPs actually are more, they're not so much saying, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And they're not like actively attacking things. They're more like, they're aware of what they don't like, but they're also aware of what they like. And so they're going to go after that. I feel like INTJs and ISTJs, ironically, they don't feel the same, like how they feel about things is they seem to be able to pick out flaws rather than pick out things that they like. So sure, they know they like this, but it's like between, like when they say they like something, they feel 10 points of happiness. When they say they don't like something, they feel 100 points of unhappiness. So they feel the unhappiness of not liking something more, where they need to express it more. And they're actually prone to having conflict with other people and isolating themselves because they just don't seem to understand how other people feel, which makes them come off as pretty insensitive. So ESFPs and ENFPs can also be insensitive at times, but they have the ability to make people feel good. ICJs and INTJs just, it actually goes again in many cases because they have this idea of being logical as so valuable to them. It makes it very hard for them to care how other people feel like, especially when they feel that other people are not being logical. So they basically like to criticize people. Well, you're not being logical. This is not right. This is not right. Well, how do you missing SI details? So they use NI and SI with FI in their looping to actually get critical on people and actually have a holier than thou attitude, which is not that commonly seen in the ISFP, INFP. So you could actually say that INFP and ISFPs have a more passive FI, where if you push what they don't like, they will passively be offended, perhaps not tell you, and perhaps terminate the relationship. INTJs and ISTJs, in their defense, if you do something they don't like, they're going to tell you. And if they tell you, at least they're giving you a chance. So like ISTJs and INTJs are actually giving you information about what they don't like, whereas ISFPs and INFPs actually tend to hide what they don't like. So they're much more secretive in this regard. It's almost like FI is a much more introverted function than SI and NI. Like FI is like internally looking at your own heart, whereas NI is looking at NI is almost like an external function, because NI takes in information about the world and sees the pattern. It builds a pattern within. Like it observes, SE observes things, puts them inside the INTJ. It like assembles different pieces of reality, and NI creates patterns that are invisible patterns that are seen in reality. So NI still has engagement with the outside world, whereas FI is actually almost completely happening in the inside world, where they're sorting things I like and I dislike, and it's felt as this real pain or this real pleasure. SI for the ISTJ is very much about getting details and getting them right and getting them in a comfortable homeostasis, low entropy state. SI and FI is, I want to get things right. I want to put things in the right order, is like SIFI. NIFI is like, I see the patterns of how things should be, and I'm going to criticize them when things are not the way that they should be. SIFI is also kind of similar. It's like, I'm trying to reduce the entropy and make things in a stable, most optimized, most functional state. This is also SITE for the ISTJ. And I'm going to criticize when they're not in that most stable, most functional, most optimal, organized manner. Is like SI and TE are both organized. So ISTJs are pretty organized people. So their FI values will criticize, this is too disorderly, too messy, too unclean. NITE is more about things. Like NI is like, I can see how things could be, how things should be, how the possibility, what's the best path, what's the best strategy for this. And I'm going to criticize when things do not line up with that, because it's so stupid. It's TE's like, that's so smart or stupid. That's stupid when when it's not the way it's supposed to be. So NI and SI for INTJs and ISTJs have this idea of it's supposed to be. So internally they have a feeling of it's supposed to be like this. And when I'm seeing it externally, I'm seeing it's not supposed to be like that. So TE is trying to turn the external to match the NI and the SI. Like, I want the outside to match my inside, and if it doesn't, I'm going to shout. I'm going to complain on the FI, which can be a problem with INTJs specifically, because SI is more practical, SI is more grounded in reality. NI is much more idealistic, so it is harder probably to meet the INTJ's needs, because the INTJ is comparing the outside reality to a perfect reality, inner reality within. Whereas the ISTJ is actually criticizing, they're comparing the outside with the inside, but their inside is like, it's supposed to be like this. Like the most optimal way it should be like is SITE. It should be like this. It should be nice. It should be clean. It should be comfortable. It should be efficient. NITE is like, how can it be the most perfect, powerful? Like it is NI is reaching for the stars, whereas SI is much more 2 feet on the ground. So ICJs complain, but they are very highly capable people, and they're the kind of people that they'll complain, and if it's in their power, they're going to do something as much in their power to make things the way it ought to be. Whereas I think INTJs, the thing is, INTJs see things at a much more macro scale. Like I have friends at INTJ in like Shanghai, like she's complaining about like how people are walking. Like she sees the pattern of like the traffic patterns in the bus. She sees all these patterns in the city and the society that bother the shit out of her, and it's making her uncomfortable, and makes her critical, and it interacting and talking with people can cause people anxiety because she's not packaging her message in an FE acceptable way. Whereas ISTJs are much more micro. SI is more micro, and I'm more macro. So ISTJs are going to complain about something that's at a smaller scale that is still within their own power to do. But it's hard when they see things that could be better, that cannot be done just by an individual. They kind of lack FE, so it's hard for ISTJs. Like let's say at the micro level, an individual could do something about it. So the ISTJ is like, I don't like this, so they're going to do something about it and make it right. But at the level higher than the individual, the group, then you need more people. FE is the linking function that links people together. So ISTJs have the ability to be great individual contributors, but when it comes to linking people together, I think ISTJs can see how it's supposed to be, and they would love to be pushing things in that direction, but they're having a hard time to getting other people on board with that vision. Now, ENTJs, I need to make sure that very interesting. So when you look at ESTJ and ENTJ, so we see some trends here, right? So actually the ESFPs, ENFPs are much more similar because their blind spot is the same. The INTJs, the ISTJs, their blind spots are the same, T as in FEs. But we actually see the ENTJ and the ESTJs are actually quite similar to ISFPs and INFPs in the sense that actually the strong function of the ISFP, the SE, the parent, is the blind of the INFP, whereas the NE is the blind of the ISFP, which is really funny. And the ENTJ is strong on the NI, and that's the blind of the ESTJ. And ESTJs are blind in... ENTJs are blind in the SI, which is the ESTJ strength. So actually, ENTJs and ESTJs would be a great partnership because their parent function is the other person's blind function. Theoretically, if they were friends and actually could help each other, ISFP and INFPs would also be a good combo because their blind functions match each other's parent functions. Whereas the ESFP and ENFP, their blind function is exactly the same. So they're actually more similar. So actually what's funny is ESFP and ENFPs are probably going to get along with each other better than INFPs and ISFPs, but they can help each other less cover each other's blind functions because of similarity. Similarly, INTJs and ISTJs, like my mom and her friend, one of my friend Haney, they get along really well. They're more similar because they have two of the second and third functions are the same. But the problem is their blind functions are the same. So I would suspect ENTJs and ESTJs can help each other more, but I think that they'd actually have a little bit more conflict because they have different values. One of them is valuing NI and one of them is valuing SI over the other one, causing a blind spot. And FI is not a good function to get along with other people. Like FE is the function that helps people really get along with other people. FI is about getting along with yourself. So a lot of people who are struggling with their own relationship with themselves, they lack FI. But a lot of people who are struggling with the relationship with other people, that's FE. So interpersonal psychology would improve FE, and intrapersonal psychology would improve FI. When we analyze ENTJs and ESTJs here, well, first of all, they're doers. T, the front, they got that. Now, ESTJs are known to be creative about solving their problems, so they think a lot about, NE gives them angles to solve problems. ENTJs tend to be good-looking. They tend to have the enjoyment. ENTJs are known to enjoy the environment, so they have SE in the stack. But they have the long-term vision, whereas ESTJs get all the details. So they're both powerhouses. The ENTJ powerhouse is about, I have a long-term goal. They're gonna get things done and move towards the long-term vision. TE and NI combo. And they're gonna get a lot of things done. SE means they're very realistic and they're going to accumulate material material pleasures and material benefits like houses, clothing. They're good at the material world. ESTJs get things done at a very detailed place. T, get things done. SI, take care of those details. And NE is about thinking creatively about how to problem solve those things. Now, FI in the vulnerable function. This is going to be tough for me to analyze. So ENTJs, SI have the blind. They're a little bit weaker on the details. So they got the big vision, but they kind of mess up on details. ESTJs they're like in the weeds. They see the tree, but they don't see the forest. Whereas the ENTJ sees the forest, but they don't see the tree. And the ESTJ is so good at getting things done in the details. They probably sometimes they're so good at getting things done, they're not sure whether sometimes it's not even going towards the right goal. Like NI is about selecting the right goal. SI is about getting those details to get that the goal. ENTJs might have the right goal, but they might mess up on the details on the way to get that goal, making them they might not get to that goal because there's those details. Whereas the ESTJs are so good at the details, but the goal might be wrong. It's like they're so good at climbing the ladder, the ESTJs, but they might be climbing the wrong ladder. ENTJs are climbing the right ladder, but they might not be able to finish climbing that ladder by themselves. And FI in that fourth position. I think if you look at these two types, I'll be right back. All right, so we're on the last part. So FI in the back of the stack means it will influence their decisions less, but it's still there. So first of all, if ENTJs and ESTJs had FE in the top part of their stack, it'd probably cause all kinds of problems. Found another error. Because FE is about getting along with other people or making other people like you and caring about the group vibe. FI in the fourth position basically means they can ignore FE. So they're the kind of people that could fire you, and if they got in a conflict with you, they would be able to express themselves because they are able to ignore other people's feelings, which I think is a very powerful tool if you're trying to stay focused on how you feel. So if we... Oops. So if we look at this, they're quite able to handle their business. Also, they have really strong work ethic. So part of their core values is getting things done. So I think ENTJs and ESTJs know what they like. FI can be understood as getting what you like. And T is like getting things done. So ENTJs and ESTJs, they have the idea of first get things done, then go get what you like. Which means they can actually do a lot of things they don't like. So when they're doing work is work, play is play. T is the work, FI is the play. And FI not being FE means they're very clear what they like, and if there's a conflict between what they like and how other people feel, they're going to choose what they like, which allows them to ignore. They're not going to get clouded by other people's feelings or group feelings, which allows them to actually become more of they're more like an individualist in the field. Like in a group setting where everyone has their group feelings, the ENTJ and the ESTJ can feel, they can separate their feelings from that of the group, and so they have a level of independence that allows them to be free from the influence of others to some degree. And because it's in the back, FI will not cause them to be under their own emotional likes and dislikes, though they have them, will not be the key factor in making decisions. So, for example, the ENTJ, they know what they like and they dislike, but the way the stack goes is SE, is this realistic? NI, does this match my long-term goal? TE, is this helping me or going to hurt me from getting things done? So ENTJs, though they know they like and they dislike stuff, they're going to have 3 layers to block FI. SE, is it realistic? NI, does this match my long-term goal? TE, does it help me get things done? ESTJs, they like and dislike any. Is this something that helps me explore the world? SI, is this going to be comfortable? TE, is this going to help me get things done? So ironically, ESTJs may not be as ambitious as ENTJs, because the difference between SI and NI and S, the difference between NI and SI and SE and NE is quite big. Whereas NI is I have a long-term clear goal, and I don't care if it's comfortable. I'm going to sacrifice for that long-term goal. SI is like I'm more about getting my present comfort is quite important. So ESTJ is I'm going to get things done, but SI I still care about my own comfort, so I'm not going to think too far ahead in the future and make too many sacrifices for something that I don't know whether it's worth it or not. So ENTJ is like long-term risky investment. ESTJ is more short-term. I'm willing to invest and I'm willing to get things done, but I need to see my return on investment soon. I'm doing things to feel I get things done. TE, I get things done so I can live comfortable. SI. And NE is this desire, I want to explore, I want to see things different perspectives. Whereas SE is about I want to conquer. I want to win. I want to experience. I want to get things. So the ESTJ are ironically, the ESTJ is actually working very hard to achieve comfort, to achieve some level to achieve a state where they can almost rest. And NE is like SI and NE is like I can rest and I can explore. So I get things done so I can rest and I can explore. It's like ESTJ. Whereas an ENTJ is like, I want to get things done so I can work towards this long-term vision and I'm going to get things. I'm going to get money. I'm going to get prestige. I'm going to get the girl. ENTJ is very goal-minded, whereas the ESTJ, ironically, theoretically speaking, is much more about, I'm going to work hard so I can live well. Ta-da, done. Live well. How am I going to live well? I'm going to be comfortable, and I'm going to give myself free time so I can explore, NE. And I'm going to have time to do things I like. So ESTJ is like, I want to get things done so I can live comfortably, explore the things I want, and do the things I like. It's very logical. Whereas ENTJ is like, I'm going to get things done so I can get that long-term ambitious goal, and I'm going to get things, that prestige, that power, and then do what I like. So they're actually, ENTJ is much more about deferred gratification. Like TENI is about deferred gratification, making the sacrifices so later in the future you could experience a glory, a future self. Whereas the ESTJ is not so much about the glory, I think. It's more about being very practical minded. If you do things well, then you can enjoy your life now. It's very more short-term thinking. ENTJ is like, if you do things well, you can enjoy your life in the future. So the ENTJ projects themselves far into the future, whereas the ESTJ is not wasting energy projecting themselves in the future. They just want to get things done really, really well and then enjoy the free time that working hard gets them. So if we were to see, I would actually say it's ironic. So FI is something in the 4th position is an underused weakness. It's a weakness because it's underused. They don't use it enough, basically. If they used FI more, ENTJs and ESTJs would live a better life. INTJs, ISTJs, FI is in 3rd function, which means they use it too much. Their life would be better if they used it less. So they're using it too much in practical applications to criticize things that do not match the SIT, the inner map of how things should be. Like I want things to match this way, and they'll make me comfortable. The way things ought to be. So ISTJs have things ought to be. INTJs also, they could be. INTJs are, I criticize this thing because it could be much better. ISTJs are like, I'm criticizing this because it's supposed to be like this. It's supposed to be better. ENFPs and ESFPs, they know what they like. They know what they dislike. But they can still abandon what they like and they dislike. They can still take care of other people's feelings. But they would rather prefer ENFPs, get me that new thing. ESFPs, let me get those stimulating, high stimulation experiences that make me feel alive. And the ISFP with the F5 you can understand the hero function, the dominant function. I'm not sure I would call it a hero function. Like, if I make my own model, which I would love to do, I'm not going to call the first function a hero function, because I don't think that ISFP and INFP is actually always benefiting from the FI in the first function. It's like FI is 16K in the first function, and it is 8K in the second function. 8K is still good. 16K takes if you're watching a YouTube video, 8K would look great, but 16K is going to take a lot more bandwidth. It has a cost, associated cost. So as FI actually goes higher in the dominant function, it actually starts to cost the other person more, because they're going to underuse their opposing function, the sixth function. So I would say that the FI is more likely to cause problems for the ISFP and the INFP than they would cause problems for the ESFP and ENFP. The problems caused by the ESFP and ENFP is actually caused by the SE and NE. The INTJs, however, so we see that the introverted FI types, they're actually having more problems because of introverted FI. FI is causing problems for both ISFP, INFP, INTJ, and ISTJ, whereas for the introverted feeling, so the extroverts, ESFP, ENFP, ESTJ, ENTJ, they should use FI more. So ironically, what we might see is that ESTJs and ENTJs, why are they utilizing FI? It's because they don't care what they like. They want to get things done. They want to get things done in the right order. Work hard, then play hard. So why could they actually benefit more? It's because I think that if you do things that you like, if you had the work ethic of an ENTJ and an ESTJ and the TE, and they were also liked it, if there was an alignment, if they did something that aligned all their four functions, this is what I would say is, if you did something that made best use of all your four functions, you would Godspeed. You would have like buff. You'd have double damage rune. It's like TE, like ENTJs are known to basically ignore what they like and just get things done. Same with ESTJs. What happens if they were doing things that they actually liked, or they found something they liked in what they were doing? So this where they could put gasoline on the fire. So ENTJs and ESTJs would probably benefit if they did more self-learning about what they truly liked and what they truly disliked, and they incorporate that. Hey, wait a minute, I don't like this. Or wait a minute, I like this. How can I put that in my NI goal alignment? How can I put that into part of my routine? How can I enrich my life and put things that I like and dislike in my life more? It's going to supercharge them, right? INTJs and ISTJs, this one's really hard because it's the blind function, but basically their life would become better. It's like, you're overusing FI, start to care about how other people think. The FE is, if they used FE more, their life would get better. The blind spot here. The ENFP and ESFPs, FI is probably used more than FE, and so it's in the most healthy and most balanced state. So, ironically, the FI is not going to be the one causing the biggest problems. However, they would both benefit if they actually address that blind spot and saying, how can we build a logical framework of how the world works? That would actually help them get more SE and get more NE and more FI. So the INFPs and the ISFPs, they need to be aware that actually, how do an INFP get out of FI? They need to use NE to get more perspectives, to value other people's perspectives. It's not just enough to use NE to look for other perspectives. They should truly value other people's perspectives. And for ISFPs, where they might actually be like, wow, so I feel so bad about what happened, they actually should use SE. They should actually try to say, okay, wait a minute, my feelings do not represent reality. FI is is my internal evaluation system. What's reality is SE, and I need to actually go out and actually determine what is the reality and how to balance and understand, oh, your feelings can mislead you. That is one of the biggest themes of FI. So thank you guys for staying through the video. I really enjoyed it. It's not the best technology that I'm using or the best format, but I just want to get videos out there, and we'll get better and better. And you can give feedback, criticize. It wasn't the most efficient kind of presentation, but I feel happy with the theory crafting that I was able to get down and some practice. And it's interesting because we covered 8 types, right? So then there should be 8 FE types. So should we cover the other 8 FE types? We might do that, because this is basically covering the 8 FI types, starting with a very big focus on ISFPs and INFPs, the FI DOMs. So take care. God bless. See you in the next video. It is the year 2026, by the way, for those who are wondering. July 4th, Saturday, 2026.